First off, I think thank you, Alex and Anabell, for thank you for making the work. Thank you for suggesting the exchange, and sort of thank you for being here and for taking time from your Sunday to talk to us. Do you want to tell us a bit about sort of um, myself personally, I'm very curious how you managed to make theater in Kyiv in March 2020.
Yeah.
But tell us the whole process of the play and how you got the idea and then how it became
Mhm.
product that we've just watched.
For sure. Annabelle, do you wanna go with that? Yeah.
We've been living in the premises of the theater starting from 24th of February, and first 2 weeks it was hard to imagine any kind of theater related activities because it was all about, like, I don't know, buying medicine, keeping elderly people in a mood, giving some stuff like help and stuff. And the more we, like, weeks pass by, the more we realize that we need to do something that we actually really know how to do, and theater is the thing. And we noticed before starting working on the play, there was one night when people gathered, to play guitar. There was some explosions and noises, but it was the only evening when we didn't hear them because we were so immersed on some, like activity, artistic activity. Just even playing song made the whole atmosphere different. And we realized that we need that feeling, we need this kind of, little shelter for ourselves to do things we know how to. I guess in the beginning we didn't we didn't mean it to be any kind of expression or manifestation, nothing. It was just we were not even sure we would show it actually.
We were not sure we would have the premiere because by that time you pretty much didn't know if the Kiev would still stand or it would be fallen and surrender to Russians. So we didn't know if it's gonna have, and we were trying to make things quickly in order to actually have this premiere before Ukraine is still there. So Ukraine is still there, and we have this performance, and you guys are watching it. Tell me, which version did you watch? Because we were so proud of this Book of Sirens, so we actually have 2 or 3 video versions of it, and one of that was actually filmed in the actual premises of the bomb shelter where we rehearsed it. Did you see it with the low ceilings and everything?
I was going to ask where it was actually filmed, because I couldn't work out whether it was a theatre, what sort of the space was. It was quite atmospheric, so I don't know which one we watched.
The ceiling was looked like an office ceiling with tiles,
Yes.
like office lights.
Yeah.
And it said the file said sound fixed, something like
Yes. That's the version. That's the version that we filmed, I guess, before the premiere. We filmed it in the premises of ProEnglish Theater, and it used to be, long time ago, it used to be an office building, basement office building. Then it was the anti-cafe, and then the theater took over, and we painted the walls, we put the curtains, inserted the lights, but the ceiling is still the office ones. You can see it, and we filmed it with 3 cameras, I guess. Yeah, like this.
No,
Yeah, because you are doing 3.
Yeah, the big sound is the one with transitions. Yeah, because by that time we didn't know if we're gonna be able to even travel with it or show it anywhere else. Because in Kiev it's not forbidden, but it's risky to perform in the traditional theater premises if it's not the bomb shelter, because any air siren you have to stop and send the audience down there to the basement.
And now because of light.
Yeah, now because
So
of light.
Every time it gets messy. But still, I remember that it was a very interesting process of rehearsal, not like a usual process, because, like, I don't know, usually you would take a play, have a table reading period, yeah, like, so analyzing characters, working together with like scenographer stuff. I mean, like it would be some process, and we didn't have this at all. So our decisions were very spontaneous. Like we just wanted to basically document what was going on with us. And it was almost from the very beginning, Alex came up with the idea of just using things we have actually in shelter, because we couldn't even, like we could go out, but to the near shop, so there was not the opportunity to create something specific, you know, some decorations and stuff. So we just took cans, the stuff that we had with us, because people came with a lot of the meat cans, just in case we have short food supplies, so we have good cans. And then we have a sleeping bag, because warm thing, and almost everybody had such with them. Or I don't know, like toothbrush, yeah, the thing that is the basic hygiene thing.
Oh, this thing, this is Anabell's iPhone, and she hits it every performance. She hits it with a toothbrush, trying to get rid of the news. And if you take a look at this iPhone, it's all, you know, it's all scratched and cracked. And this is one of the most traumatic things for me, because we bought this iPhone just before the invasion. We were still paying out credit for that. You know.
Yeah, so the point was to basically document what we feel, without any pretentious meaning or something. I guess everything that came later was not expected by us. So we were absolutely not expecting having even this chat with you. So thank you guys for watching and for being there. And how do you feel after watching the performance? Like, was there something that you liked or you didn't?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just briefly jump in. It's funny because having worked on Stay the Light, we spoke a lot about making work in basements, being, you know, in areas that felt more claustrophobic. And I guess what really struck me about, thanks, what struck me about the piece really was that even though that's true, like the confinement, it's still quite expansive, because it's about the imagination and about where, you know, you can be free even in the confined areas, and about the will to live and all these things that I think are bigger than the small spaces that you're in. Right? So for me, that was what really struck me. And also I wanted to ask a bit about the adaptations of the two pieces, of the two books. Was that something that you wanted to do beforehand, or was that something that you thought would be appropriate because of what was all happening around you?
Well, there was the story about this performance is pretty much like Anabell said in the beginning. We took what was available around us. None of this was planned. This book, the book by Marko Zusak, the Book Thief, Ukrainian version of it, was in our library. Down there is a just shelf with books. Some of them connected with acting, some not. This book was there. And I read it, I guess, 2 times before, and I loved the book. Never wanted to stage it. But when we decided that we're going to do a performance in a bomb shelter while we live there, I just, you know, came to the bookshelf and I took this book. And then when you start reading it, you understand that the story of Lizelle Meminger, the bomb shelter, she's trying to read, that's what we should take. And the book is pretty big. If you haven't read it, The Book Thief by Marcos, it's a great book. It tells the whole story. Yes. Do you like it? Do you like the book?
I loved it. I loved it. Can I just ask, was Anabell dead?
Good question.
Because I couldn't, because I know The Book Thief, I don't know the other book. I suddenly thought, oh, it's because she started talking at the end about the bodies and they're different in every year, and I suddenly thought, oh, maybe she is dead. So what's your answer?
I guess I would answer this question. Just you may finish about how we, because it's related. I guess to how the previous
was the best part.
Yes.
So the book is big, and it tells the story of Germany and raising and this Jewish person living in a shelter, boxing Hitler and stuff. We stayed only with the story of Lizelle Meminger and bomb shelter, because that's pretty much what we found these days. And out of the whole book, we took 6 pages. I guess it's only 6 pages that we used. And for this 6 pages, we got the permission from Marcus. We got in touch. It was the craziest email communication ever. In March, you write to Australia you find a literary agent, so Markus Zusek, and you write, could we use the performance that we're staging in Ukraine under bombings? And he responded, his agent responded and said, like, Markus would be happy. So we're using the 6 pages. And there is another part, but I guess Anabell will go with this, and then we'll go with the extra. Extra about. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's the other one. So yeah. Another point is that Anabell, she's an actress, director as well, and she also has the publishing house. So, and where would you, as an independent publishing house, keep the books? In the theater, of course. That's where you keep the books that you publish. And Anabell, because her father was from Nicaragua and everything, so she publishes the books from Latin America. In Ukrainian translation, but some of the books never been published here in Ukrainian. So the second book was Hector Abad Faciolince, Forgotten We Shall Be. This guy who recently got Nobel Prize. He's going to get Nobel Prize. He's he's really cool. And there was this whole bags of books of Hector Abad Faciolince, and we used them to block the windows. Because in fact, we are semi-basement. Half of our windows, they are still coming out to the street. And in case of explosion, the shattered glass would come out and hurt everybody who lives in the bomb shelter. So normally we would block the windows with sandbags, but we didn't have any. So we used those books. We put all the books for Hector Abad Faciolince on the wall. And then when we started rehearsal and we were looking for the middle part where Lizelle Meminger is talking about father relationship and stuff, everything about Hans Huberman, I just took a look at the windows, and there it is. There is Hector Abad Faciolince book, and it's about his attitude to the father and his relationship with the father. It's an autobiographical book, and we took this book out. So we left the windows unprotected because of this, but we armed the performance, I would say.
Yeah, well, there were much more books to leave windows unprotected. But yeah, the point was that the story related a lot to his father and son. In case of Hector Abad, it's father and son relationship, and it's a really, really beautiful book. If you have a chance to read it, if there is a translation to English, it's like a very autumn mood, nostalgic, but very beautiful story.
Yeah, and this is the books that we're actually using on stage. That's Hector Abad's books, these orange ones that are falling. We also saw it. The books has fallen. So yeah, these are the books that we use on stage all the time. And in one of the books in our traveling parts, because we do tour with this performance, we managed to show it abroad. One of the books we give to the audience in the end, and they write on the empty sides of it. On the margins, they write whatever they feel like. So it also becomes the part where an audience speaks, in the book.
It's interesting to us because it like reality mixes with imaginary world so strongly that you cannot see the line, which is usually very clear. Like there is theater and there is real life, and there is book and real life. In our case, it all started to mix so strongly. So I'm still I don't know how to call this phenomena and what I feel towards that, but it's just a curious thing to observe how like it all mixes up. There is no truth or like playing. It's all in the same time, truth and playing. And the same applies to death topic because originally this text was from a perspective of death. And we kind of build it this way, but I guess from the very beginning we didn't want it to be any kind of, we didn't pretend it to be obvious. So it's like, it's okay if people don't get that, because there is another layer to it, because it's basically the moment when it's not Lizelle but me speaking, so it could be interpreted in any way, so we are okay with that. But yeah, like originally it is a death monologue, and it also has a lot of like sense to me because we were so close in March to this feeling, to death feeling. It was so in the air, so it was not like as an acting job to imagine yourself playing death. You just take circumstances and you just go with it. So you could see what she's talking about. Being tired of so much death, of so much people she needs to carry. It was very relatable, and still very relatable feeling. So it's okay if, again, people don't get it, because in between my personal story and the story which is written from a death perspective.
Thanks so much.
And so the setup that you had there with sort of makeshift sleeping arrangement, were you actually using those? Was that like?
Yeah, like to the right of the stage, there was a place when we were sleeping. Actually, the sleeping bag is actually Anabell's sleeping bag. In the same, we didn't even change the setup. There's 10 people were sleeping in this very room where we performed. So it was very hard to find time for rehearsals and everything. Because when you spend so much time in a bomb shelter, there is no sunlight, and you don't really understand, all this timing gets broken. And some people stay there like, half of the day just sitting in a sleeping bag. And when you need to rehearse, you just rehearse around people. So yeah, all the setup that we had, we just brought the table in the middle of it and put cans on it. The rest was as is. And now when we travel, we are trying to recreate it in a more symbolical way, just putting a couple rags, couple sleeping bags. But what you see in the video is like people do sleep there. And in the original introduction, I did say like, Raisa Grigorievna, she sleeps right here. This my good friend engineer, he sleeps right here. And now you're gonna see the show. So that's the reality of how we did it.
So let's do a bit of an exercise of imagination. You've done this in March, right? March 22, with Russian troops sort of being 20 kilometers away from Kyiv. Let's assume Russia would have occupied Kyiv and annexed Ukraine. Where would you be now with this play?
I guess somewhere in Europe. For sure, not under Russia, because it's not even a question. So this is my interpretive imagination exercise.
Were you thinking about this? Were you thinking about, God, what happens if we're getting annexed, if we're gonna be Russia?
We had a big discussions. Like we even had the drills, because the theater has lots of stuff. So next to the door, we had a couple spades, like the spades. And if Russian soldiers would enter, we would have the whole disclosure when the girls would have a little bit of dance, drawing attention aside, and the boys would hit the soldiers with spades. So we had these drills. We were really trying to create, Molotov cocktails. We have a lots of prop bottles. So we were trying to get, but we didn't get because the gasoline was expensive and we used it for delivering humanitarian help. But we were seriously trying to prepare in case, and we are located in a 5-story building. So all the neighbors became our friends because we were the bomb shelter and they had the shower, which is important. So we were going up to our friends and neighbors and we were checking on this, flower pots on each floor. And looking how you would throw these flower pots on the heads of Russian soldiers if they enter our street. We did create a barricade. On the second night, guys, it was crazy. Like on the second night, one of the territorial defense guys came into our bomb shelter and said, let's build a barricade. The tanks are coming. And we're like, at this moment, you would, So we came out and in half an hour, we built a barricade, dismantling the pavement and putting the barricade, blocking the whole street. Next day, we have to dismantle it because the Kyiv services came to take away the garbage and the car couldn't come. So the tanks didn't come either. But you can imagine this feeling when you don't know and any sound, lots of explosion and everything is possible. Now we making a lot of jokes about it, but at that time it was like this much adrenaline, this much of anxiety, this much of
the thing is that in March, everything seemed absolutely different because we didn't know anything about war. What we knew about war was something from movies, something from it didn't seem that I don't know. The war is either you fight, either you all the movies, about the war or books. They are written from the perspective mostly of soldiers. and like you basically don't know what to do if you're a civilian. What like should you evacuate? But in our case, we could not, because in the first day we still were thinking kind of we might go somewhere, but the neighbors started like going to our basement, and there was a lot of elderly people, so we couldn't just leave them, and close the door. So we just stayed, and we didn't understand the thing, so it was really like harsh. We didn't understand which sound it is. Now we are like pros. We really can understand the differentiate the sound and stuff, so it's easy for us right now to make jokes and to have a retrospective. But back then, anything that could be like an analyzing process or something, everything was on adrenaline, as Alex said. So back then, even when we discussed things like, okay, what would we do if Russia soldiers come, it was all bullshit actually, because nothing of this, and from now perspective, would help us or would make any sense. So it's just hard to make any assumption when you don't have knowledge about what's going on. So I think one of the best decisions we could do is to make theater, because it was more understandable for us, the rules of this reality, theater making. And I also because even before the full scale, we worked with some kind of hard topics, so it was already clear to me that even if we don't understand completely what we're doing, it's for good, because we would have this as artifact of what we experience. And even though we perceive it differently right now, it keeps that mood, and we can come back and analyze and reanalyze, and it helped us back then just to have a shelter, and right now it helps us to kind of to have this retrospective, to be able to see the wounds and to understand, to send them to heal somehow.
Yeah.
So what's your activity now? Because I understand you can't really do public performances.
Well,
We try.
yes and no. I mean, you have to stop. Technically, you have to stop if there is an air siren, and it's like this roulette thing. Sometimes there are no air sirens for 2 days. Like for 2 days, we didn't have any. Sometimes there are 4 or 5. Recently, Russians started striking missiles at Kyiv, and so it got more dangerous and stuff. But since then, since the Book of Sirens, we staged 5 more performances. We've been 3 times as productive as during the last 2 years. So we've actually staged more shows than we did, because we do think it's our artistic resistance and stuff. And we do explore these difficult topics, like Anabell staged as a director performance Blooming Violence, with which she's going to Poland soon, which she performs in Les Kurbas Center in Kyiv in 2 days. And that's a story about violence against women, all sorts of violence, domestic violence, abuse, kids hitting a girl whilst they are small, actual rape, and so on and so forth. And this was also the part because we did speak to many women who went through this. When Kyiv region was occupied, Kyiv wasn't, but Kyiv region pretty much was occupied by Russian troops. And they stayed there only for months, this March, April thing. But when this region was liberated, the stories, you probably heard about Bucha, Gostomel, Irpin. So these things. And Anabell and the girls, our actresses, they were the ones who came to talk to the women, because we were working with journalists at that moment, international journalists, and they would send a girl to speak about this. So they spoke to many, many girls who went through this, and you wouldn't.
Many no.
Okay, not many, right? Okay.
Yeah, a couple of ladies shared their experience, which was heartbreaking. But there was one woman who struck me with her power, and whether everybody were crying, telling their experience, she was like very strong and not pretentiously strong. Like I pretend I'm strong, but actually I'm broken. No, she was very wholesome in her strength, and I like we basically the show is not analyzing but trying to find ways to meet after trauma in like finding this spots of strength and like switching the place from victim to just accepting what's and taking back the responsibility for your life. And that's it's a harsh thing, but it's possible. So the show is actually very uplifting. It's not you know, like let's see it happens and everybody's I don't know. So it's just it's made for uplift periods because it's what we thought was very important, and we still think for people not only in Ukraine but everywhere. Like the world is passing through hard times lately, so like everybody needs some kind of kindness and uplifting spirit. So that's what we did, and the same like the last show of Alex is based on the same idea. Basically.
Yeah. Well, before that, second show that I staged since full-scale invasion was a musical. I staged a musical where people actually dance and sing, and they sing ABBA songs, Mamma Mia and everything. But that's a musical about free access to guns, and it's also a part where two LGBT soldiers of territorial defense standing on a blog post, and they discuss their relationship. Because I felt like what could be the strong opposite to war? Love. And we created this performance called Love at Times, where people dance and sing, and they explore different love stories during different wars, actually. And this is very easygoing story. It does explore hard topics, but I mean, there is a lot of laughter and fun about it. And that's what we're trying to do, to put art against this inhumanity, which war is. War is very inhuman. So like laughter, jokes, musical, and things that can be put aside. What else? We travel quite a lot. We've been to Spain 2 times with this performance. We've been to Italy with Women Violence. The guy's going to Poland soon. So again, we started traveling much more than before the invasion.
Are you allowed to get out of Ukraine?
Well, many of the shows are done with the girls only. So female actresses and directors, they can travel. If you a man, you need to get special permission from the Ministry of Culture. But we got it 2 times. We took out me and the piano player, Alexei, and we went to Czech Republic, to Czechia, with the Book of Sirens. We performed it 4 times. And Germany, yes, we've been to Germany. Imagine this show about the Second World War and show it in Berlin and Hanover and Köln. We did. We think it's very important these days. Plus, you know, in Bayron's Court Theater, you guys, for you, I guess it's a matter of fact. But for us to have the theater in English that can speak on international levels is a very rare thing. Ukraine doesn't have it, we're the only ones. So to have these performances that you can speak anywhere they would understand English is very important. That's why we probably started doing so much.
And talking a lot.
Talking a lot, yes. I guess we can talk talking longer than the show.
Yeah. Could I ask, just in terms of your script of the play we saw, how did you said you obviously used Bookfeed, you used what was really happening and the other book, but when did you actually put the script together? Can you just talk me through how you did that?
Yeah, well, there is this book by Markus Zusa called The Book Kyiv. Yeah. It was in Ukrainian, so I couldn't really work with that. So I had to find an English version of the book, and I did. And then I was just starting putting away or like editing the parts about Lizel Meminger and the bomb shelter. And that was really overnight work because the daytime, it's like you're supposed to have nothing to do in the bomb shelter, but no, we had so many things to do with humanitarian help and logistics and everything. So only at night when everybody, and like I say, you don't really understand it's night because there is no light anyhow. It's all electrical light. So anyways, I usually was working on these pieces like late at night, like at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was doing 1 page per day because that's really what you can do. So it took me 6 or 7 days to put together the whole script. And then we were looking for this piece of Hector Abad. It came much later. Original idea was not like this. We wanted to use Antoine de Saint-Exupéry for the piece, but then Hector Abad came from the window. And I guess Anabell did help me with the English there, right? Yeah, because again, it was a book in Spanish and Ukrainian. So we took this piece and voila, It was done. We didn't change a single word. I mean, like none of this is written by us. It's all words of Marcus Zusak and Hector Abad.
Okay, there is only one phrase.
Only one phrase and only one piece.
Ukraine, when it says Ukraine in there.
In the monologue of death, yeah, when she says from Poland to Russia, from Russia to Ukraine, and back then. And in my original version, like, maybe we'll do it one day. One day you would name the city you're in. Like if you perform in Birmingham, you would say from Russia to Ukraine, from Ukraine to Birmingham, and back then. So far, we don't do it because we believe that the message is still very clear. War is unstoppable if we don't stop it. So that's the piece that we added. And the final phrase was written by me. I felt it's very important. So yeah, you can write a book about it. The final words of Lizelle, /des, you can write a book about it, that's what I wrote. I'm so super happy about this phrase.
Yeah. No, I really like the split screen, and I really thought it was really well put together. I loved all the music, and I loved all those. Yeah, I love the way it's put together.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Looking forward to your performance. We're gonna be doing Saving the Light on the 12th, and it's such a symbolic name now. Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm glad because I think I gave Veronica 2 options, and I'm glad you picked that because I think it's very relevant because I don't know if you've watched it or if you know anything about it, but
yeah, I know the playwright, but I haven't.
Yeah, so Paulina has this story that's inside the play, and it happened in her life that she had 8 minutes to leave Kyiv, and she's lost. She was meant to stage a script. She was meant to stage a script, and then she's lost that because she couldn't take her laptop. So she wrote Save the Light in the 3 months that she stayed in Italy between February and June. So it's the experience of fleeing from the war and being a refugee and struggling to find your place, but it's written with such humor and such sort of detachment. I love, and in general, she's got a great sense of humor, Paulina. There's no sort of complaining. There's no. It's very matter of factly, and somehow it turns very humorous, her writing. Yeah, I'm very glad we did it. And I'm hoping, and I'm curious to see what you guys, how you guys will see it in Ukraine, because it's the experience. I mean, you might know people that have similar experiences because there were 5 million people that have gone through this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with you after.
Yeah, and we have lots of friends with Ukrainian modern playwrights because that's one of the things that ProEnglish is doing. We put together stage readings of modern contemporary Ukrainian playwrights in English and so on. So many of them, like, we became friends. And some of them, yesterday and today, we published our playbill for the month, and Save the Light is there, mentioned as a special guest screening performance. They like, you put in Polina Polozhentsova play? Bayron's Court Theater is coming to Kyiv? I'm like, not yet, but it's the first step. So everybody's very curious. It's like the first theater exchange of a kind. So we do expect to raise some, interest and show the people that it is possible. Your plays can be staged back there in UK, and then they can be shown here. So it's all this.
But do you know the story? Do you know how it came about?
No.
So, okay. So can I tell?
Sure, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay. So when war broke out, we at Borovenskiy Theater, we were sort of bashing our head if there's any way we can help, and we are like, it's not. And we said, we'll give free tickets to Ukrainians. This still stands. You come to Borovenskiy with an Ukrainian passport, you can get in for free at any performance if it's not sold out. And we didn't expect, I don't know, like I've written to the Ukrainian Institute, I've written to the embassy. They had other things on their mind back then. So we didn't expect anything would happen. But then slowly, like we started getting people in, and we started getting theater people in, because theater people arrived in London, and they were like, let's see if there's a place for Ukrainian theater. And then Polina was one of them. And she wrote to us in Ukrainian, so I had to use Google Translate to sort of translate her emails. And she said, "Can I send you a script?" And I said yes. And she sent the script in Ukrainian. And we had to talk to John Friedman from Ukrainian Worldwide Translations and say, "Can we translate the script?" So we translated the script. So then I finally got to read it, and I really liked it for the reason I said earlier. I thought it's very insightful. It's the kind of story that you don't really see on the news because it's a lived story, and it's written very well. It's written very detached and very humorous. So I was like, let's try and make this happen as quick as possible. So I would say it's not in the best possible conditions, but I am proud that we managed to put it in front of an audience. We have 2 of the 4 actresses are Ukrainian. So now they can we're trying to sort of integrate them in the industry. Sharon is planning to do some workshops to to help Ukrainian actors in London integrate in the industry in London. And yeah, this is the story of how it happened. So Paulina wrote to us in April, I think.
Yes, after the piece.
Yes, I think she wrote to us in April, and then we did the play in July. Yeah.
Wow, that's just great. And John just wrote to me yesterday as well, like, is it really happening? Because again, he's very proud, John Friedman, he's very proud, and he should be, for the great work he's doing translating the plays. And like with Paulina's words coming out in English, like, she's a great playwright. She should write more, and she should speak out